Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start the process of rebuilding this transfer case. This is a new process 205 out of a 1974 Dodge Power Wagon. This is a divorced transfer case. So this is the rear. This goes to our rear differential. If we spin it around, you can see it's got two of these. One is an input, comes from the transmission, and the other one goes to the front differential. So unlike a lot of the other things that you see where they're married, the transmission and transfer case are bolted together, this has a short stub drive shaft that's actually probably only about that long that comes from the transmission and goes to this. I'm rebuilding the entire truck from the ground up, so this is one of the pieces that's going to get rebuilt. Does it need to? I don't really know. But putting in new seals and bearings is probably not a bad idea on something of this age. There was a little bit of a vibration at highway speed in the truck. Don't know if this is the cause or not, but we'll get in, replace all the seals, the bearings, the synchros, take a look at the gears, and basically just do, the usual maintenance on this. So let's get to it. First thing I'm going to check is these yolks. Got to clean them all up, but what you want to do is you want to check this surface right here where the seal rides. Just over time, that seal gets hard and it can actually wear a groove into the yoke, and if it has, it'll seep oil. We can repair these with a speedy sleeve, or you can buy a new one. The repair is, I think, about 20 bucks a pop. Well, I did a first pass with solvent and the wire wheel. This is the worst one out of the three, and it's really not that bad. I wanted to get them cleaned up to see if I needed to order parts for these. And it looks like this one has maybe a little bit of a groove there. I can feel it with my finger, but I can't catch it with my fingernail. So I consider that good enough. Make sure that these front bearing housings are not cracked or anything. There's no obvious damage. These look fine. These contain the seals here. Same thing on this output. Yeah, I'm going to have to get in there with the gasket scraper to see. It is at this point that if you have not drained this, this is going to get real messy. So you probably want to make sure you drain it. Drain plug is right down here. This is the fill plug over here. Helps if I take all the bolts out. This cover has a roller bearing in there. And those bearings, as you can see, there's nothing holding them in but this shaft. So you don't want to lose any of those. You do want to inspect it for any cracks or anything like that. Might help to do it while you're cleaning it so that you can check both sides, but you can get a pretty good indicator on the inside here. This is really clean, so this actually seems to be in really nice shape. Next, I'm going to take this cover off. On this one, you can see it's got this tab on it. This has just been, some home welder put that on. There was a cross member or a strengthening bar that went from here back to a cross member on the frame. I think they were just trying to stiffen it up so it wouldn't tip like this in the truck. Unfortunately, it is right up against that bolt, so that's going to make it fun to get that out. A little bit of thick goo in there as well. Doesn't feel like it has any grit in it, but it is really thick. So I don't think it's got any real wear going on in here, but it definitely needed to be serviced. The back of that looks horrible, though. It looks like it was dragging on something. We'll take a look at that a little bit better when I get it apart, but yeah, that's horrible. Next, I'm going to take the detents out for the shift mechanism. This basically pulls in and out, and that's what determines whether you're in neutral, 4 low, 4 high, or 2 high. There's a ball detent and a spring under each one of these that are kind of holding this in. Got another couple sets of those bearings here that are just needle bearings. A rebuild kit should come with these, but I don't want to lose them anyway. So this is our input shaft. Just inspect the whole thing, looking for any broken teeth or any obvious signs of wear here. And then check all of these. This thing's in great shape. It has one of those bearings down inside here as well. So if you tip it over, like I just did, the bearings go all over the floor, just like mine just did. Just like we did on the other one. Inspect all of the gears. Again, this one looks really, really good. Check this thrust plate for both wear and heat. See if it's discolored or anything like that. So next we've got a couple of plugs up here that need to come out. The only way these plugs come out is you drive them into the case. So I'll just use a drift and a hammer. And that's what it looks like. I'm not sure if the kit comes with new ones, so try not to lose them. This synchro here is held in by this shift fork, and both shift forks are held in by these shafts, these shift shafts that go all the way through. It's worth noting, this one has a flat spot on the end of it. This one does not, so they're not the same. They have to go back into the same hole. They are the same diameter, so either keep track of which one is which or mark them. At any rate, to get this shift fork out, we have to take the shaft out, and the shaft is held in by a roll pin. Now I had to drive these freeze plugs or soft plugs out, drove them in, and there is a roll pin down inside here. Take a look at that here. See that roll pin right there? So you have to pull this shaft until you can see it. To get a roll pin out of something like that, especially where it's a little hard to get to, you can't just use a standard, like just punch. You really should use something like this, which is a roll pin punch. A couple of things to note. It is parallel side, so it's not tapered. That's important because if you use something tapered, it's going to get stuck in there. The other thing that's really nice about these is if you look at the nose of it, it's got this little rounded piece, and then it's got a shoulder. The rounded piece goes down inside of the, the hollow of the roll pin, and then the shoulder grabs onto the edge. This makes it really easy to take out. Without one, they can be a real pain. And that drives the roll pin out. This is a 7/32. I'll do the same thing over on this one. Now I can take that shaft out. And then you just drive the pin out, which in turn allows us to remove that fork and the synchro. Now, you want to inspect the fork, inspect these pads here on both sides for wear. And these ones are barely worn at all, so that's in perfectly good shape. Then check all of the teeth of the synchro. These should be in good shape unless somebody was jamming it into gear while it was moving, something along those lines, but this seems to be in really good shape. Once you have the shift shafts out, this is where one goes, the other is just a little bit that direction. You can see right there, there's a little rod. This needs to come out as well. Once you have that out though, this shaft comes right out. As with all the other ones, inspect all of the teeth, both the drive teeth and these synchro teeth. This one's in fantastic shape. Check the shafts where the bearings hold on to them, make sure they didn't get hot. Then I'm going to drive this out. All right, the only shaft left is this one. This one's fun because we have to drive it out. Before I work on removing this shaft, I'm going to take these two bearings out. Now I've got replacements, so I'm not terribly concerned if I damage these, but generally speaking, when you take these out, if you don't want to damage them, you want to drive on this outer race. It comes from the inside out, so I'll spin it around and drive it out. Again, I'm just going to use this chunk of brass, tap on the edges all the way around, and drive them out. You can see how it's working its way out. And you want to inspect them. The easiest way is just by feel. You can rotate it and it should feel really smooth. This one actually feels a little bit rough to me. So I would definitely replace that regardless. Yeah, this one's in much better shape. That other one feels a little crunchy. This one's super smooth. Now I just need to get this shaft out. I'm just going to use a brass drift and give it some wax. I might have to drag this over to the press though and put it in and push that thing down. And that's the shaft out. It's got some corrosion on it right here, and I'm sure that's why it was not wanting to go through, is that was trying to push through the bearing. All right, now that we have that shaft out, you can just rotate this over and it comes right out. This has tapered roller bearings in it and shims. Inspect the bearings just like you would any other bearing. My hands are a little dirty, so I'll probably clean these up in solvent, but it generally looks fine. I cleaned this idler shaft up. Again, the back side is horrible looking. I'll probably at least put it in the lathe and run a pass across that just to get rid of all of the rough stuff. I mean, it's actually got sharp edges on it. The finish here looks horrible too, almost like it was done, I don't know what the hell with. Does not look like a, something that would come out of a machine shop. That's super rough. Admittedly, the bearings don't run there, but it still looks terrible. Now up on this end, if you look, it looks dark right here. And it actually looks dark up in here, and then it gets light again. So I actually think that this got hot. So at some point in this transfer case's history, I think this bearing went bad, and it overheated and maybe seized. It didn't, damage this, but I think what happened was it got hot and then grabbed onto this and caused this shaft to spin, and then this was rubbing against maybe that back cap. Something like that. At any rate, I might see if I can find a new one of these. This one's probably all right. I'll clean it up with some Scotch-Brite, do a pass on that to clean it up, and just do some measurement. I think it'll be all right. But that's the most interesting thing I've noticed taking it apart. I did forget about this. This bearing comes out just like the case bearings did. There's that snap ring, but you just drive it out from the back side. You have to kind of come in at an angle and tap on it. You can take this race out. The kit should come with one of those. This is the speedometer drive gear. In order to take that out, that bearing has to come out. So that just comes out like that. And then here's part of the drive gear. There's another gear that the cable connects to that runs on this. I've changed the gear ratio on the rear and front ends of this truck, so I suspect that I'll have to change this if I want the speedometer to be correct. Though I haven't decided. I might go with an electronic speedometer that uses GPS, so I wouldn't need it. But be aware that this is likely what you have to change if you change the gear ratio. All right, there we have it. New Process 205 completely disassembled. I'm going to take this case, get it nice and cleaned up and painted, go through, check all of the surfaces, and then we'll put it back together with new bearings, new seals, new gaskets. That will be a separate video. Thanks for watching.